Hey, G, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Thanks, Brian. Some background on myself. All right. My name is Guillaume. My American friends call me G. I actually born in France, but I've worked most of my career in English. That's where the accent come from. So I born in France and moved to Canada 10 years ago. Um, I been working all of my career in the fintech space, doing business to business, selling from capital market solution, trading solution, treasury solution into corporate and financial institutions. So I spent the first 10 years in Europe, worked in France, in Luxembourg, Switzerland, Turkey, and when I moved to the US, worked mainly in Canada, but now I cover the Midwest, some Midwestern states as well as states in the Northeast.
And why sales for you?
Why sales for me? That's funny question actually. When I did my master's or finished my university degree, one of the teacher there said, "We want to be in sales." And I was sitting in the front row. There was like 300 students. I was the only one raising my hands. So I'm like, I look back and I'm like, I'm the only one who wanted to be in sales. So I don't know, it's something I felt came naturally for me, and I always enjoy it. Maybe there was a money aspect to it too, and just it came like that, and I decided to stay in sales almost my entire career. I actually did a stunt. I did few years where I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something else. So I took more of an operational role,
Yeah.
became a project manager for the solution I was actually selling. But to be fair, I got bored after a few years.
Did you? uh, Let me guess. Do you have the adventure gene where you like different things? Do you spend your vacations going to new locations?
um, a bit of both. I used to be
Yeah.
like this when I was younger.
Okay.
Um, Now I would say, I'm a family man too. I have a wife and 3 kids, so pretty busy. And I would say that I tend to the time that I have left, because it's always about time, I try to spend it with them. um, but I do like snowboarding in crazy conditions. I used to ride motorcycles, and I do triathlons, and I like things
Oh,
to go
now we're getting
fast,
to it.
right? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a mix of both, but yeah, adventure, tend with age tend to disappear.
that's true. And why financial services? What about that appeals to you or fits your personality?
We have to be honest, right? So,
Somewhat,
what I wasn't, I mean, it was by mistake almost.
right?
What interested me was technology. I like software. I like software because it's ever changing. There is never a year that is the same. Not only the product aspect, the clients are changing, the market trends, and and it's exactly like sales. You always have to reinvent yourself. So I really like that. Uh, then I had two choices: healthcare or financial system, in terms of uh, working for an editor when I was in France that had a strong client base and a good product. And I tried healthcare, but then I got a job in fintech. So after a while, I decided to capitalize on that. And I think when I turned 40, yeah, like when I turned 40, I had like an epiphany almost. It's like the ecosystem you're working in finally becomes clear. You understand what your clients are doing, and I mean not just your clients, but all the stakeholders in the industry and chain, what they're after and what they want to achieve. And I find that has a lot of value, uh, especially when you do consultative selling, to understand what clients are doing. So
Yeah.
I stick with it simply.
And who are the clients typically? What's the persona? Is it bankers? Is it analysts? Is it
So right now I'm selling mostly to large corporations like Fortune 1000, governments as well, and financial institutions. I used to sell to banks in the past, but the products that I'm selling now are not designed for banks. I work for a large fintech, FIS, right? So it's another division that sells to the banks.
yeah? And What are those people like? They're not the partiers. They're kind of very straight
Oh,
shooters. Give me the facts.
no, no, no. I mean, the people now, the people I used to work before were traders. So those were the partiers. Okay. And now I'm working with treasurers, uh, director of finance. I'm not going to say they're not partiers, they enjoy life, but I mean, no, it's very serious and very, structured. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
we don't enjoy a good meal or something, but no, it's serious.
But, and you like that persona or have you warmed up to it?
Oh, it's not even something I really thought about. Do I like interacting with my clients? Um, I mean, I do. Most of them are very smart and interesting people. I would say with the buyer, like procurement, and I've read from your your blog that you've been in procurement. It's harder to create relationship with procurement because we've been established as enemies, right? So after a few years, you can, right?
Yeah.
But with my clients, like the IT people or the treasury people or the finance people, once you realize and they realize the benefits you can bring to the table, and you've established a relation based on trust and making sure that everybody wins in this relation, right? Yes, we really enjoy, and some have became friends. Like I have clients who came to my house and we bike together, we go for a run together, or things like this, So no, it's but it doesn't happen all the time. It's not what I'm seeking. That's what I'm trying to
Right.
say, right?
Yeah. I
My
hear you.
friends are here, not necessarily on the Zoom call.
And what's the hardest part of your sale? Because I got to believe that there's lots of alternatives that aren't really understood. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Um, so what can you precise maybe the question here a little bit?
Yeah, because what I'm getting at is, do they try and commoditize you? Do they see you and all your alternatives as equal and they just
Mm.
go to price? Or what's important to them?
All right. All right. Okay. It's a good question. So it depends who you're selling to, right? In B2B space, you could have like a very large company, a very large organization, who would sign up for a treasury solution, and it's a very transformative project, right? In that case, the value we bring to the table is the capacity to deliver a tailored solution to this customer. In that case, and I'm not going to name products here, I don't think that's
Doesn't
the forum, right? But
doesn't
in that
matter.
case, I think we have the top product. I mean, it's called Quantum in the treasury system. We have one of the top product on the market. The question is, are they going to adapt their processes to get something simpler or buy that? Right? If
Okay.
they've decided that they need this solution, it's a no-brainer. We're gonna be at the top. I'm not saying we don't have competitors. We have like SAP, an ERP, or some other areas, but when it comes to this area in particular, I have one of the best product. Now, when it's like more of a commodity, cash management or a SaaS solution that's just gonna help, access to a bank portal, like something more simple, yes, in that case, it's a commodity. It's based on price. There could be, risk aspect to it, like the fact that it's a Fortune 500 company you're buying from, or these kind of aspects. But let's say most of the time, in enterprise solution, it is very important to have like a solution that answer the client requirements and not just something that you can buy off the shelf.
And what do you feel is your strongest sales characteristic in your personality?
Um, so today, and I've thought about this a lot for this interview, right? First, I was really kind of proud to be named by one of my coworkers, and I'm like, okay, so what makes me different? I think over the years, I've realized that there's this used car salesman type of mentality where you try and showcase all the features and all this stuff, and be the best, and often talk too much. I'm often the guy who doesn't talk in a meeting. I'm just listening. um, and I think what makes me different is I I I don't know if that's the right word, and pardon my French, but I stopped lying. I stopped
Direct,
lying. Uh,
honest. Yeah.
Honest, ask questions, really understand what they're after. Um, and I work for a Fortune 500 company, so I assume, and I'm right, that the structure, my pricing structure, my legal contract, the procedure to implement, all of that is covered and by other teams, right? So I'm actually trying to be the advocate of FIS when I'm at the client and be the client advocate when I'm working with my internal stakeholder. So I'm trying to make people happy, make everybody happy, which is pretty rare in our industry, right?
Yeah.
And I realized by thinking client first, FIS second, my reps, because I'm a sales manager, right? So my reps third and myself last, I make everybody successful and therefore I'm successful. I don't need to think about myself. If everybody's successful, I'll be successful. And I think that's a little different than what people are sometimes doing. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And when you were a rep, why did you want to get into leadership?
Um, I like working with people, and it's like the same as I used to play soccer and coaching soccer team for younger kids, all of that. Um, it's more about helping and helping on where you can add value, right? I see the leadership, or I don't know if you call it like sales quadrant, but you have prospecting, building relationship, progressing a deal, and closing a deal. Each rep would need help at a different stage. I'm not the best at prospecting, to be fair. I never liked cold calling and never really enjoyed that. I was more like building relationship, and this whole thing started to create a virtuous circle and working by itself. Like, of course you do your calls, but you didn't need that. So I helped my rep with prospecting. I help them a lot when it comes to strategizing on a deal. So being a manager, I can work more big deals and be more helpful and therefore more successful. So I thought by focusing my time on that and having my entire team successful, I'll mitigate my risk and I'll have a better time. Like I like what I do better than just, filling up the CRM and stuff.
Yeah. And what was that first year like as a leader? Because it's completely different than being a rep.
You're right. So I've been a leader a few times in my career. I became a leader and went back to sell. I mean, being a rep and back to a leadership position. I think the first time it's overwhelming. Um, and you have to change your habits. Like, they say like you get to your desk at 8:30 and shit hits the fan, right? Hit the fan, and you're like, oh, and until noon you can't do anything. So I started waking up earlier, getting all my things done. So then I could help people like in the morning rush, and then I realized like, how do I anticipate this better, and how do I proactively help people? So I started to have a good cadence in terms of one-on-ones and helping people proactively. So all these things would not come to me unexpectedly. So I would say the first 6 months were very stressful, especially on this gig I'm in now. But really just, I had a good boss at that time who told me that, say, I advise you wake up early until you fix this. And, go to, no, I mean, and I started at 6 for a few months, so.
So you got good at getting that stuff out of your way.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you can spend the time focusing on strategy and not just running after things all day long, right? And I'm especially good in the morning. So I want to have like this 10 to noon time for myself where I can work, right?
Yeah.
So
And you use the word strategy. When you're looking at a deal, what do you look for? Because a lot of leaders make the mistake of just do this. Call Mr. Big Cheese or Mrs.
No,
Charge.
So I work with senior reps, right? I mean, I'm in my late 40s. In my team, I have people that are like, I think the youngest is late 30s and the oldest is early 60s, right? So I'm not going to tell them how to do their job. Basically, they've been working for like as many years as me, almost, or some longer. I call it like it's almost brainstorming session. And I like to think a little bit like a chess player, when you think, okay, I move this piece, what could be the impacts? I move this piece, what could be an impacts? And, you have like 60 different scenarios when you do that, right? But that's why that's kind of my tactic is I talk to the rep about their deal, and you have like this checklist, and I'm not gonna go through the checklist, but uh, you know, did you identify the buyer? Is there a budget? All of this is obvious, but when you get into the deal, is what is this person feeling? What are they getting from this? Not just what are they getting in terms of immediate ROI. How can that advance their career? How does this project fit in their I mean, other list of projects they're working on? Maybe they have 100 projects and you're 99 and you think you're number one. All those things, I'm really trying to ask questions and act like a sounding board for the reps. And sometimes I just throw ideas at them and they take them if they think it's the right one or not. But I think that works because all of my reps, they like this. Like we all do the strategy sessions and we talk together and figure out
Well,
scenarios.
well, that's it, because you're hitting on the things that they probably don't want to think about, but know they should be thinking about it. Personal wins, because everything you mentioned was personal wins. How do
You're
they
right.
feel about it? How does it impact their career? Where is it on the priority list? Because as the rep, it's got to be it's my top priority. It's got to be your top
Yeah,
priority.
yeah. No, it seems like it would be obvious, but it's not. It's not. And I think even for the rep, you know, to come to this level of trust with their manager, because I think, I mean, the client we understand, like it's a human being. He has other priorities. He might be unhappy this morning. Didn't I? His coffee was cold, whatever. Um, but the rep himself, sometimes, and I realize, especially with new hire, they're proud. They're proud people. They don't want to talk like that. They don't want to show that they have not
Weaknesses.
thought about everything and they have weaknesses. So this comes actually, you know, you build trust during those one-on-ones and with your team. It's not about telling them what to do. It's helping them. You're trying to, it's teamwork. So
Yes.
I think I was successful doing that in the past, and I keep doing this a lot today. And that reflects into the way they interact with their customer as well. By it's like consultative selling. You're trying to ask questions and really understand how you fit in the ecosystem and what are the expected results, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think the mode that you take, because you're thinking like the customer as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking like the sales rep, because the
True.
sales rep thinks like, how do we end run them? What new discount can we offer to incentivize them to do something?
Well,
You're,
that happens, right? At the end, when you close the deal, you need a time bomb, a discount. Like we all do that, right? But I'm
sure,
not going. I mean,
you
but
don't,
that's
you
more at
don't,
the end.
right?
Yeah.
That doesn't take 10 years of sales leadership
No,
experience,
no,
right?
no, no.
That's day one.
Yeah,
But they're wondering, what's the client thinking? But what's blocking them is their own need.
yeah.
But you don't have that need. No, not that immediate need. You can take a step back.
That is,
That's
yeah, that is right. You the client. I mean, for the rep to understand, the thing is that's when we talk initially at the beginning about the ecosystem, like the clarity, understanding what your client does and how they compete with their peers, and like if it's a corporation, how do they interact in terms of you know, compliance with all government regulation? How do they interact with their banks? The fact that I understand what each party does is maybe helpful for some of the reps who don't have as much experience in the industry, and that's why I like to think like the client, right? And
yeah.
I guess that helps.
And plus, even though these people are very analytical, even keeled, non-emotional, they're still making a logical decision with emotion.
You're right. You're right. I mean, they buy from people they trust. It's not always just about price. I mean, I think processes sometimes can almost kill our business because you will follow those processes, but you forgot to just simply be human and talk to the client like you would do to a, not a friend, but you would talk to somebody you would interact, like somebody who comes to do work in your house or whatever. You're not just going to follow a process. This is what I do. No, it's you have your habits. Like you have your, I think you did a video like this with the skills become automatic, you know?
Yes,
Well, that's
yes,
what I do. Like I,
yes.
but that come only with experience, right? So it's just trying to have those skills, but those skills need to be attached to strong personal and professional ethics.
Yes.
Um, because you want to you don't want to come across like someone who knows everything. And sometimes that's maybe my problem is like, I know what they're going to say, so I just want to cut them, you know, but
Well, you also did something really smart in that the chess analogy where you're like, if I move to here, how are they going to counter move?
yeah.
Because that's what you're future pacing the deal. If we offer a time bomb, do you think it's going to have any impact now? Or have they picked us to the exclusion of every other option, including doing nothing?
Hmm.
Are they going to buy something from someone, or are they going to shelve this problem till next quarter?
Yeah, well, this happens all the time. Like the status quo is often
It's a
the deal
competition.
killer. Yeah, it's a competition. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Have you guys found a way of working around them just not doing anything right now?
Volume. Just have other opportunity to fall back on. You
Yeah.
can force someone to do something they don't want to do, unless you have the. I mean, you can, but that's not gonna result in a
No.
happy ending. You
Right.
know, I mean, you know, I don't know. Like, I think volume is the key, and that it ties into why I became a manager too. Uh, um, Having enough opportunities to fall back on and making sure you have a right cadence to progress them. Uh, why did the deal stall is something you need to figure out. If they don't have the budget internally, you're not going to make up the budget for them.
Right.
I mean, you can try, but I think personally, I find it as a waste of time to go figure out internal issues for the client. I can help. If I understand them, I can help. Okay, I'll give you a discount. I'll delay the billing of this part, whatever could help you make it fit. But if it doesn't fit, you're not going to put a square in a round,
Right.
whatever. So
How
I
about
think
change? Does this change their work? Must change their workflow somehow, the
it does.
client's workflow.
It does.
Is that a major obstacle in your deals, that they're not comfortable, they're scared, or they're very comfortable doing it the way they're doing it now, even though it's not as efficient?
Generally, no, because it's the decision maker. I'm not talking to the end users. The end user would
Okay.
react like you're describing.
Yes.
Uh, but and actually sometimes end users are pushing because they come from another organization where they had the system and they want the system. Sometimes having our system is a way for the client to hire better talent because they don't want to go everything on Excel and manual tasks. So it's like almost they know they have to go there. It's, when I started in 2000, working in 2000, it was the beginning of electronic trading.
Yep.
And I had people, clients who say, I'll never trade on a screen. I'll trade on the phone, talking to my broker and all of that. Now everybody is trading electronically. So it's the same in what I sell for treasury 20 years later. It's just they have to do it. It's
Yeah. And what do you see as a key differentiator between the very best reps you've experienced? Doesn't have to be at your current company or current role, and the very best. Is it a characteristic? Is it a skill? Is it just hard work?
I have different type, and that's after the years I realized like there is not like a specific format that makes a rep the best. I had
Right.
reps like I'm not the most patient of guys. I had reps that work deals that I told them we've lost them, and 2 years after they'll bring them up, and I'll be like, man, that was patience. Well done. So very successful rep was very patient. Then another one is just activity leads to result, and maybe in less complex solution it actually works. A lot of activity will lead to results. In my field right now, I don't think it does. You need to have the right activity on the right person, which is different. So obviously hard work is the one, right? But I think, and I realize that now, is the one that are really genuinely trying to help the clients and trying to do the right things. Like we were talking earlier, like if you do everything in the guidelines and try and do the right thing for the client and for your company, in the end, you'll be successful. I mean, I know it sounds kind of lame what I'm saying here, but there is not a perfect answer. Like I wouldn't put a rep in a box and say, this is the rep and I want to clone it. My team is
Well,
composed of very different people.
and that's good to hear from a leader, because I think one of the first things a leader does the first year is try and, make everybody like them, sell like them, work like them, live like
Mhm.
them, talk like them. And
You're
it's a
right.
disaster because people can change, but only when they want to change.
Yeah, and it's all about trust too. It comes back to trust. They will change only if they see that it would have a positive impact on them.
Yes.
But trust doesn't come like that. You need like months and months and months of collaboration until they realize, yes, it would make sense. But I mean, I don't know if trying to change someone is not like a waste of time. It's like when we're talking, trying to force someone, a client to buy if he doesn't have the budget. It's like, no, let's go around it and find a way of making them more successful. And then, if the rep is not successful, maybe there is something different that you just need to, maybe it's not at the right place and needs to find another job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And where do your deals typically get stuck? Because it sounds like you've got a very advanced product that has a
Yeah.
real need, solves a real problem, but a lot of people aren't ready yet,
Mhm.
or doesn't make economic sense yet, or they've got
But
internal
there is a difference
issues.
between deal and opportunities, right? You have all the
Yep.
prospecting aspect. Can take years to get a deal, to get an opportunity to a deal stage. Um, those are highly transformative products. So again, I have been talking for 2, 3 years with companies before we even get to a deal, right? Then when it starts, it generally doesn't get stuck because we know what we're doing. They have the budget approved. So it could be a company spinning off or uh, a pandemic or some things like this that could actually stall your deal. I think they get stuck sometimes in procurement because of some legal aspect, non whatever, some legal clause that are slowing us down. But generally they don't get stuck. We work them so they don't get stuck. You know what I
Well,
mean?
what's going on in those 2 years or that long process before you feel it's a real deal opportunity
Yep.
versus education, rapport building, trust
Yeah.
building?
So what's going on? It's a lot about um I mean, there is the return on investment aspect of it, where you need to
Yeah.
help the client who's trying to get a budget, uh, competing with other internal project and make sure your ROI gets to your project gets to the top. And that's what I'm working on, is helping them get approval. Uh, but first you need to convince them that they actually need it. So again, I don't think that's part of the process. That's why we're talking volume.
Yeah.
This is just normal. That's the time it takes. So, some clients are more educated than others. They might have hired a consulting firm to do this job for them. In
Yep.
that case, we come in and we have a very strict RFP. We try to avoid those because we don't have a relationship with the client at that time. So actually, that's the point. It's building relationship. That's what we do during those 2 years. And building trust. you know?
Yeah. And everyone thinks that that happens in the first 5 minutes of the call. No, that
Yeah, no,
happens
it
in the
doesn't.
first
It
two
doesn't.
years of a
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
And what advice would you have to a rep who's considering going into leadership but isn't sure? Have you found any particular questions that you should ask yourself before getting into leadership, that who is it right for and who is it wrong for?
Yeah, well, it's a complex question because there are multiple aspects. I'll take the easiest and most obvious one is the impact on your commission check. Uh, Obviously, getting into a leadership role versus a direct contributor, the upside is less than what you would have as a manager, but the risk is less as well.
Yep.
So it's about, if you've saved enough money and you didn't spend all your commission check on fancy cars and things like this being young, you're okay to become a manager. If you're after money, you're going to be very frustrated because you're going to see some reps making more money than you, and you should be okay with that. You should be
Yes.
proud of that. Actually, I have reps making 7 figures. I don't always make 7 figures. I hope I will, but that's okay. You know what I mean? And I think that's the best advice, is just, you're doing this as a team and people are doing this for different reasons. So compensation is one, but then there are multiple other in terms of, you know, personal ability and patience. I mean, I don't know. There are so many aspects.
That's true. Hey, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Guillaume Chabanel. I think you're just going to tag the name, and I'll be happy to connect with anyone who's interested to talk. And yeah, I just want to thank you because I follow you, and I've always really enjoyed your video in the morning when you're walking with your camera in your neighborhood. It's really, really cool. I actually introduced you to my entire team, and really thank you for the time.